Hello, it's Saturday, September 10th, 2016. I'm Tony Samario, and this is World War III This Week. I'm recording it actually Friday afternoon to put up tomorrow because I have a busy weekend ahead, and I have a full pad of notes from paying attention this week to what's going on as the tensions keep flaring and the wars and rumors of wars continue. And but before we talk about that, I want to talk about perspective, because it seems to me that everything is so unbalanced in the way that it's shown to us. We see only a gender mania, terrorism, all these things, and when you put it in perspective, I believe someone was pointing out that smog kills thousands of people per year, literally air quality. Poisons, 100 times as many people a year as die in the United States of terrorist attacks. And all of the put on nature of what's made important to us. And I think even in the alt media, I've wanted to give some attention to things like this Mandela effect, so-called, where everybody's remembering things differently. And it's affected me, as I've said, with biblical quotes. I've been reading the Bible all of my life for at least 35 years, and since I was a teenager. And, I'm sure it always said wineskins. You don't put new wine in old wineskins or it'll burst the wineskins. Now it says bottles in the King James Version, the Bible. It's the oldest one sitting around here that we've been reading the longest. So no computer program did that, How do we account for things like that? I don't even know anymore, but I see that all of it distracts us from what's really going on in the world, a bigger perspective of why are all these things happening in our life the way they are. Why they're presented the way they are to us is pretty easy to undermine. When you look at the way propaganda was invented before Hitler used it, and the way the Western industrial, capitalistic, fascist elements from America, all these corporate owners, right? Fords and Morgans and Harrimans and Carnegies and all these people were funding what was going on in Germany. Because, I don't know the facts, but it seems like 6 million people didn't die. Not that however many did wasn't atrocious, even if whatever the lowest number is in the hundreds of thousands. And if 200 or 300,000 people were worked to death and genocidally starved to death and murdered, then that deserves to be understood and for what it is. But the propaganda built around the Holocaust being the only one anyone talks about and the only one you can go to jail in many countries for denying. We have all the Holocaust of the North Americans, indigenous people that we great and free Americans came and slaughtered to the tune of almost 20 million. You've got the 10 million or so Ukrainian Christians that were slaughtered by Stalin, not to mention the tens of millions of mostly Orthodox Christians slaughtered across that area of Russia and Eastern Europe by the communist forces, so-called, the Chinese purging, all these sort of things that have gone on. If you don't have a perspective for all that, if you just think these are natural occurrences, well then this whole, the whole idea of a deception in the end, what's going on right now, all of this is led from the time of when we just look back a couple generations, 50, 60 years now, back to our grandfather's time and grandmother's time during World War II, living through that deception. And what they did with that was being able to repopulate Palestine, which they'd taken, 30 years earlier. They'd already divided it up while they were stabbing the Hashemite king in the back. So, who's really behind all this stuff? Look at all the countries really hurting right now over the IMF loans. If you look at this International Monetary Fund that's been out to help Africa, Jamaica, Haiti, all these third world countries, have they been helped? Is there help now, 30, 40 years later, that we can look back? All these countries are up in arms. They're actually, they got the pitchforks out and the shovels. They're so mad at what's been done to their countries. They're in such debt that the people can't even develop their own resources. They're under contracts to these IMF that are destroying them and their culture. And they're not so stupid. They just don't have, they've never been given any power. They have no power to resist it. So that's the world we really live in. And if you want to see some really cool articles about that, some very well done multimedia, I've just subscribed to another at BroSal.org. We've just subscribed to Truth Stream Media. Really bright young couple that seems to know what's going on and putting out a lot of good information. So they don't seem to understand the eschatological story. We're still the only place that I can find where you're going to get the tie-in to, why the third temple? What's it got to do with an antichrist? What's it got to do with scripture and eschatology and religion? You're not going to hear that anywhere else. But so anyway, this background is that everything is so contrived, even the alternative media. How many, the federal, we have a federal terrorism warning now in the United States, right? Obama's been saying it for at least a year or more that we got to be ready. ISIL's going to go after, targets in the United States. And so anyway, I don't want to go too long today, but I have so much information already. And of course, the federal terror warning, where's ISIL going to target? Because they're so sophisticated, right? They're such a sophisticated network. Remember when they started a year ago, what are we going to do? How are we going to stop them? And of course, a guy like Trump's got all the answers. We're going to build walls. We're going to screen, we're going to turn it into a full-on police state. So that's the good news. ISIL's unstoppable and Trump's got the answer. Police state, it is. But the federal terror warning tells us restaurants, theaters, sports venues, right? All the things they're not going to target military installations. They're not going to try and shoot down American fighter jets or, disrupt military supply lines. They're not going to blow up military manufacturing facilities. They're not even going to target the people that work there to scare them. Don't go back to work at Raytheon and build more bombs to kill our people. No, they're just going to do naturally. Let's go kill some innocent Americans because why? Well, that will help our cause, Sure, if your cause is to be utterly destroyed from the face of the earth, that's going to help it. So all this absurdity, like all the hot spots we got going in the world, like North Korea, right? I mean, are you kidding me? This guy, nuclear tests. The more I watch that, my idea is that we're testing stuff over there. Last I remembered, our military was in Korea in the 50s, doing what Zabriskie had pointed out later in a book. You can't allow all the Asians to get together. You can't allow all the Arabs to get together. It's too many people. If they had a unified purpose, they could resist you. You can't kill them all. You can't restrain them all. You can't go take their resources if they all say no. So what do you have to do? Divide and conquer. You have to get in there and divide them amongst each other. How do you do that? You have to own their political system and their schooling and history writing system like they did ours. That's what all the Ford Foundation, Carnegie Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation. It's easy. It's an easy study to figure it out, you guys, but that's what they were all about, is the money that was being siphoned off into these foundations for the very purpose of getting control of the writing of the books for history, of the teaching of the teachers to teach history, of gaining control of the political system so that the people that were in there were saying yes to the teachers, yes to the history, yes to the type of programs and policies that they were going to put forward, which are all this sort of fascist, imperialist, oligarchic rule of a tiny structure of elites that are born to rule. They're either God's people picked to rule through Calvin, or they're nature's people, superior to rule, a la Adolf Hitler through Darwin. And Nietzsche, that are big enough, man enough to rule, man enough not to care about good and evil except as a means to an end. So those are the people who are in charge and that we worship with all of our way of life in America. They keep us busy with their Hollywood distractions, bread and circus, and they've reduced us again. After Americans, see, there was enough Americans, enough immigrant Americans that were aware enough of what was the good life and what was not, that they were not so easy to control. Remember, they threw the banks out. Yeah, old Andrew Jackson there, they threw the banks out, and now they're throwing him off the $10 bill or the $20 bill. I notice, and they're going to put, darn it, I forget her name on there. But, Jackson opposed the central bank and the banking in general before it was the central bank. Same people. And so it took them 100 years to finally get that thing into America. And after that, what did they do? They quickly looted. 20 years later, boom, blew the place up. So you had a lot of angry Americans that still knew that people like Andrew Jackson had been arguing against that crooked deal for 100 years. And they'd lost because the political system was already being overrun with money and insiders willing to, didn't take but one president, Woodrow Wilson, and a dozen congressmen to get the Federal Reserve finally in place against the will of all the people, certainly, as we can see now, against their better good. Whatever you want to say, it's obvious that it's that system that has corrupted and bankrupted the resources of America. That system that was used to usurp all the land and all the riches, and those have been funneled up into a tiny group that just happens to be the people that funded the system to begin with. Oh, okay, I guess they wanted our best interest at heart. So anyway, if you have a perspective that stands back far enough and you see that everything they're telling you now has been usurped, it's owned by just a few companies. They didn't put the internet out because they thought, oh no, let's see, maybe the mass of people can overtake the system with it. They put the internet in your hand as the final tool, I believe, to completely brainwash you and get you not to see what they're doing, but to be led like a ring in the nose. The Pied Piper has got everybody dancing to their tune. And I think especially that left wing that thinks they're so aware, right? So that's what I want to warn people that are listening to me, to guard against thinking you're aware, because no awareness is going to change anything. None of what I'm talking about is going to alter anything except the people that know what the bleep is going on. So that when this news keeps hitting us day and day, getting worse, getting more manic, coming over that cell phone, that iPhone in your hand, manic. The people that are listening to me, at least have a whole different take on it. I mean, sometimes it gets me excited because I feel really emotionally moved by the depth of it all, the profound nature of the deception and the what's going on with the loss of life and liberty and pain and suffering with people over all this. But at the same time, it doesn't push me in all this fear, what to do, how to react. I'm expecting it. I've been anticipating it for a long time. I was calling it on this show when ISIS first was shown as the very first picture we saw to be told ISIS is forming. And I said, that's propaganda, BS. That's not. And now you can see what popular movement. So anyway, I just want people to think about this created wag the dog images that are coming across your screens, the reporting. They're all reporting like a stage show. Many of the things are set up, okay? The North Korea show is what I'm seeing it as. This what? Since we've been there, there's been only what? 2 rulers, and they've been a father-son unit, huh? Sounds like Syria. The other people, we can't, the mafia can go in and take anybody out they want. They can take Kennedy out 50 years ago. We can take Obama bin Laden out. We can, we've been taking out leaders. That's what we do, apparently. You look at the CIA's track record, we don't just take, we take out Americans, right? Ask Martin Luther King. Ask Malcolm X. Ask, what's his name, Koresh with Waco, Texas. We take out whoever we need to take out, but nobody can get close to Assad, right? Nobody, all those years I kept saying, this Yasser Arafat hiding in the rubble over there. With all our modern weapons, we can pinpoint everything. We can take out, we can see a cigarette lighter on the ground and take out a particular car. And we know Yasser Arafat's going to meet with these people. He's going to meet with these people. But we can't just start blowing up everywhere that he goes, basically. If we know all of his different places, well, at least it'll be blown up when he gets there. He'll have to find somewhere else, I found it amazing how all of our key enemies are so resilient to our means. And so North Korea, to me, if anything, looks like a place we're blowing up our own stuff to test it now for the upcoming war. Because remember, wars and rumors of wars, but the end is not yet. The end that Jesus was talking about to those guys was his coming back and the end of the world. That's what they wanted to know about. That's what they saw, the destruction of the temple centered around the end of the world. He's going to come back. It'll be the end, the end of everything. And so they were saying, when's that going to happen? He said, here's how it's going to go. Nation will rise against nation. Wars and rumors of wars you'll hear about. Earthquakes and famines in diverse places. All these things must happen. But don't be alarmed. The end is not yet. So I say we're still being set up. And if you're watching the news thinking North Korea is really a threat, it's like watching the news and thinking ISIS is really a threat. The only threat ISIS is because how far are we, what's our plan? How big is the con today? What are they doing with ISIS today? Now they got Turkey over there and they're killing, so ISIS kills Turkish troops, right? So we're making sure Turkey's people are getting hooked in. They're paying with their lives. You think their people don't care that their brothers and sisters and sons and daughters and husbands and wives are being killed in a war with ISIS, right? So you look at all the schisms right now, China and the USA over the South China Sea, the G20 thing. You got different people siding up with China, like the Philippines now and Russia. You got just all these reasons. Iran and Saudi Arabia over the Hajj again. Last year you got, 1,000 people maybe trampled to death. And now that I didn't know last year, but now, I thought, those crazy devils, those Muslims. And now I look at it and think, no, the CIA, this is how we do things. If you don't know that, watch that fantastic documentary. One of the best things I've seen lately was called Newburgh, I think, the Newburgh Sting. And this is one of the poorest communities north of New York, in New York State, in the United States. And this is dirt poor, the kind of place where, they used to be slaves for some land baron selling or making something, and that's long moved on, and now it's just a bunch of rundown homes with no industry to support it, and a bunch of crack dealing, dope dealing, street people trying to exist. And it's from there that an FBI agent is sent to go recruit terrorists. And now this is all done through the FBI's own footage, so I really encourage people to check this out. This isn't just conspiracy theory. This is a fantastic HBO documentary. And I think the only reason HBO could make it because they confirmed 9/11 was terrorism. You know, they toe that line in some of their quotes from the movie, from some of the people in the documentary that use that ridiculous, 9/11 terrorism, we're fighting terrorism now sort of idea. But other than that, what they show that the FBI is doing and why. And this isn't a lone case. This is an epidemic of the FBI going into these poor communities, offering money, getting these people to come and say they'll do something like go blow a bomb up planted in a car. You can see by the footage of these people, I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to hurt anybody. They offered him $250,000 when the documentary brings out that $5,000 is sufficient in a entrapment conspiracy. You offer somebody $5,000 to do something, that can be considered entrapment because $5,000 is a lot of money for somebody. You offer somebody $250,000 that are from the poorest. These people are, and most of them had jobs. These aren't people that were just on the street, crack addicts, shooting up on the corner, no goods. These are people with families that were working, trying to make ends meet. And they're sucked into this scheme by an FBI agent who sets them up to go do things that they didn't want to do, but that's how bad they needed the money. And what is it? They're busted by the FBI in the act of doing it with inert bombs. They didn't even have stuff that could hurt anybody. So they were just patsies being set up. And now they're behind bars for the rest of their life. So that's the world we really live in. And again, when you see in this documentary how all this was shown on the news, was there any journalism like this documentary to see who these people were that got sucked into this? Nothing. Congressmen, attorney generals, and all the news media all toeing the line of these Muslim terrorists. These guys they said they were from this local mosque there. Well, they interviewed the local mosque priest and the assistant and the people there. None of these people attended the local mosque. One of them happened to go there 2 or 3 times in his life, but they weren't part of that congregation. These weren't Muslims going to fight for Allah, and yet that's exactly how our media inflamed it to the public eye. So if you're not aware of this, then you don't know what I'm telling you when we go over these news articles. So that's the value in this commentary, I hope. So anyway, look at all the schisms. Iran, Saudi Arabia, of course, Iran and Israel. Israel's now dropping bombs over there to fight ISIS, right? When they are, for all intents and purposes, Israel, America, NATO, they are ISIS. So who are they dropping bombs on exactly? Maybe Hezbollah? Shia Muslims to really get Iran and Iranians fired up? North Korea, well, they're just, they're the flavor of the day for the world. Between ISIS, the no-faced, no journalism, threatening the whole world every day in the sense of sending in individual gangs that can terrorize the world. North Korea is the what I call them last week, Dad, the lone gunman, psychotic despot, ready to push the button, send the nukes all over the world. Nobody tells you they got all sorts of weapons that can shoot these things down right over their silos the minute they go hot. At least if you go back and look at some of the stuff I've seen in my exploration of these subjects, people show us the patents. They show us the demonstrations. I just read you, I think last week or so, last couple of weeks, one of those warships we're sending to the South China Sea is the first one that's got a laser gun on it, right? Laser gun. How long does that take to deploy? Is that the first one? You mean they've never tested it and yet it's on a battleship now in the sea? Laser gun. So, go look up laser guns, see what they can do with those, and imagine how scared they are of North Korea when we got laser guns that we don't tell, that isn't even part of the conversation. We've already been presenting that for how many years, decades, that what the people know about and see is decades behind what the military is on the edge developing. They don't let everybody see what they can really do. You got Judy Wood presenting you with all the evidence of an obvious energy weapon used in 9/11. There's no other explanation. We don't know what turned the buildings to dust. We just know they were turned to dust. And that points to Tesla type of technology. So I'm starting to see that the whole game that they're presenting us with, oh, but we got to watch out. North Korea's got all these missiles. Oh, but we got to watch out. China is going to bring us to war in the South China Sea. All of that's got to be seen as hype that they're pushing on purpose, you guys, to steer the world in a direction they want them to go, with the 6 news agencies that own everything that they want us to hear. And if you go back and look at who funded RT, well, who funds Russia? I mean, how have they built up? RT appears to be the antithesis to the thesis coming out of America. They're set up to be the good cop, bad cop, so they can say all the things through RT that you can't get as part of the discussion in America without opening up too many red herrings in the way they cover everything up in America. It makes all the journalism look like pathetic, watered down nothing, which is what it is. So RT says that stuff and they can look like an edgy, coming from the enemy's camp. They can be blamed for saying what anybody opening their eyes to the issues can see is quite clear. But it's all measured. RT's not presenting the Russian aggression as some sort of staged parody for America to build up to World War III. Nobody's talking Pike prediction. Nobody's showing that Russia was supposedly broke 20 years ago. Where'd they get all the weapons? How have they got all the money? How come Korea is able to fire off all these weapons? Do we let Iran do that? Iran's not even allowed to have a weapon, let alone shoot them off and threaten Israel every week. Oh, we're going to get you. We're going to kill every last one of you. I mean, it's just such a joke. North Korea, you'd think you could have shut this little man down. I mean, what's he really got? Come on, you guys. Iran's potentially got a whole Shia and Persian population, Arab population, that might join arms with them and march over to Israel. Shoot, if they started on the march, they might even get some of the Sunnis to join them. That's pretty dangerous. Well, who's on North Korea? Who's North Korea? Who's going with this guy's rhetoric? Who's standing on his side saying, yeah, you show them we're with you. They won't touch you or we'll fire our missiles too. Come on, you guys. What a joke. What a total joke. Russia and the USA are being, of course, shown to be the great enemies. The Ukraine crisis is flared up again, and yet, is that real over in the Ukraine? I mean, a few people are dying, no doubt about it. But what I'm saying is, the same people are sending the weapons to both sides, essentially, under the guise of being the two great enemies, like the Cold War. But we know exactly what I'm saying is both sides know exactly what's being done, because the supposed government in Kiev is the puppet government that we put in there. The other people are what's left in Russia, the Russian people who don't want that puppet government, so that a hot spot can be stimulated when it's necessary to send us to war. I mean, they can't just say wars and rumors of war. Nation will rise against nation. And in my Bible, it actually says insurrections, revolutions, and rumors of war. So, here's what you got going, these hot spots. Look at Afghanistan, man. The people they're killing over there. Because we want those people dead, and we want civil war in those countries. We want Shias and Muslims to kill each other, even if they know the CIA's behind their Sunni brothers and sisters. If they're Shias, they just want that to be one more reason to kill the Sunni Shias that are being backed by the West. And so, but a lot of people dying over there, I believe. That's where you got bombs. That's where they're really spending their bombs and killing people. And look how long, because most of those people are probably decent people that just won't have this this Western killing machine in their country. They'd rather die. And so we're like, okay, that's how we do it. That's what the American, Native American indigenous people said, North Americans. So we killed them. That's what the Bolivians said. So we're killing them. That's what the Chileans said. So we're killing them. That's what the Argentinians said. So we're killing them. The Brazilians, we're killing them. I mean, that's just how it goes if you look at history. And of course, the Sunni-Shia rift is another one that we've been watching since I learned some eschatology about the Islamic eschatology through Sheikh Imran Hossein. And I've seen that he's waiting for Shia-Sunni civil war, and that's what's being stimulated. That's why all the real Muslims have had the wool pulled over their eyes, just like the real Christians who aren't standing in the street saying, we love everybody, homosexuals, black people, atheists. You can't make us hate people. Come here, bring us your poor, downtrodden. Everybody, bring us everybody. We love everybody. Our doors are open. Our food, bring us the refugees. We're not afraid. And we won't vote for a government that's afraid. I mean, that's what real Christians would be saying. We're not afraid to die. We're not afraid to live like the master when the time comes to do that. Instead, of course, Christianity's been turned into the military. If it wasn't for all these militarized, brain-dead, haters and hypocrites, you couldn't even have this third world war. If all the Christians, so-called, were acting like it, it would disarm the situation. And so I think what does the Pike prophecy say? The agents of the Illuminati will foment the Zionists and the Muslims. And so in America, that equals Christians, these Christian Zionists who call themselves such. And in the Middle East, that's always been this push from Wahhabism forward for 100 years to radicalize these people instead of, let them expound their peaceful, loving religion that does not call for chopping people's heads off. That's the same new religion that the Christian one that calls for killing people who want to chop people's heads off, right? It's all just fake. It's all phony. It's all been created to bring us to this time. Libya is going through some heavy stuff. Those poor people, ever since we got that maniac Gaddafi out of the way that built one of the greatest modern engineering projects, in human history, maybe of all of history, one of the great wonders that's come about in the modern world. Since he did that and kept the people of his country living at one of the highest standards of living in the world, which I never hear very much journalism about. But ever since we, drug him through the streets, Libya has been just another bastion of pain and death and destruction. So yay, America. And then in great America, since, we're so great, we should be giving our freedom to the world. We've got the black-white instigation. We've got nationals against immigrants, right? We got to build a border, send the immigrants out. We don't want refugees here. We got to start acting like Hungary now. We got to start towing the line like a third world communism nation. We got the Homo sapien, homosexual, heterosexual. We almost have the Homo sapien and, trans sapien thing going, but we got the homosexual, heterosexual fight to the full, right? And the guns and no guns, right? All of these things in great and free America, flag or no flag, arguing over the flags now. It's not, we're all free and, we want everybody to be able to do as he pleases. So if you want to say offensive things, that's your right. We don't make a law against that. That's the difference in America that I grew up in. We don't make regulations against saying and doing offensive things. Now, if you take a gun and shoot your neighbor, that's not only offensive, that crosses the line of interfering with your neighbor. But if you just want to put a sign up that said, I hate black people, I hate homosexuals, I hate everybody that's not like me. In America, I don't know, I was raised to respect your right to do that because it made me comfortable that I get to do such silly things if I want to, and the SS troops aren't going to come and take me away. So I get to make my stand and say, I hate vaccines. I hate child pornography. I hate pedophile, congressmen, and think they should be held accountable. Right? That sort of offensive commentary won't get me taken away. But now you got to be careful. It's offensive to someone in America. I mean, if you say the anthem, if you don't say the anthem, if you say, Merry Christmas, oh, you're offending all our Muslim brothers and sisters. You're offending all our atheist brothers and sisters. Why? I'm not stopping them from saying God is dead or Allah is great. I say Merry Christmas. That used to be what America meant. So it's very strange, the America that's supposedly the great and free America of today. And everything I find sensationalized that people have to be very careful of. They're just spraying the people of Florida now for Zika. The people are screaming, I don't want to be sprayed. And the government's going, we got to spray you. We got to protect you. Zika causes encephalitis when funny, is all this other, it's like the vaccines maybe cause encephalitis. Stuff in the spray might cause encephalitis, but the connection, to Zika apparently is not what they, at least what I've seen. And I don't see that the discussion is important enough that they're really doing it on an honest level where you can tell, it's like the 9/11 Commission. Oh yeah, they must have really looked into it. They didn't seem to come up with the fact that airplanes don't fly 500 miles an hour at sea level. So how'd that happen? And they don't penetrate steel buildings, and the fire isn't enough to, the building 7 wasn't hit by a plane, and the commission didn't look at those questions. Oh, okay. So I'm saying, that's the way our journalism goes when you're being railroaded, and I'm saying you're being railroaded about all of it. You have to peel the onion away many, many layers, I think, to get at the deeper truth. Why don't they talk about the Third Temple? Why isn't it that we all talk about the fact that the Masons and the secret societies really want to rebuild a Third Temple? Why do they want to do that? Who are they waiting for? Are they waiting for a Messiah? What's that all about? So, you get behind a little of this, the fact that they let you see, or they can't help but you finding out that it's the Soros money. They fund all the opposition. Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, whatever it is. Down in Venezuela, those poor people. Man, do you see what it's like down there, you guys? Do we do any journalism about how that's all caused by years and years and years of careful IMF planning in the name of not allowing communism? But we allow North Korea to have a weapons program, I guess. Oops. I get, what's all these genius decisions? Cuba certainly hasn't turned out to be the great threat that we thought they would be, that we can't even import Cuban cigars. But North Korea, what the hell happened? Why weren't we paying attention over there? Venezuela, those poor people are starving to death. All their animals are starving now because they can't afford to buy food for themselves, so they can't feed their pets. How's that? Real crisis, all caused by, if you don't know that that's on purpose, and when you watch your news and they tell you how, the aid program, and they tried, but these sort of things, it's all been done on purpose, you guys. We just don't have time to go into it every week, but it's easy to determine that what I'm saying is true if you do the study yourself. So anyway, now they're telling us, violent crime, of course, and in America, they're showing us all the violent, people are jacking people over like crazy now, of course. Campuses with black only housing, because of course that's appropriate if you want to make everybody feel equal, and then let's go back to segregation. So really a weird world we're coming to in 2016. If you want to know what's going on in 2016, you got to be able to read between the lines with us and see a deeper perspective. And I say that, it's all going toward depopulating so they can rebuild their temple. Getting all the population running for their lives so that they can rebuild the temple and tell everybody, here's how we're going to do it. And people are like, oh, thank God. Will that save me? Will that stop all this crap storm that's overtaking my world? We're starving. My kids are starving. We can't get food stamps because of the big flood. We can't get this because we once signed a petition. We can't do this because we haven't got the chip in our hand yet. You know, whatever the story evolves to, they're going to love it, want it, beg for it. That's what's coming, you guys. So look at where we are. We're not quite there yet. They still got the alternative media feeding us all the alternative crap. They're trying to kill us. They're going to chip us. They're going to make everybody work in labor camps. Their idea is to put everybody in little cities and keep them off the, Agenda 21. Yeah, that is their idea eventually. But that's not tomorrow. And they're not going to do it by killing everybody and chipping everyone. That's way too expensive, right? Letting people go to war and fight wars and kill each other and do it slowly a little bit now. Build to it. I think they're going to build to it right now. Will it take 5 years, 10 years? I don't know. That's the part to watch for. That's the part to measure, right? What's really going on with the technologies? We don't see all these fish die-offs and these, the reindeer just suddenly dropping dead and they tell us it's lightning, Keep watching for all of these different signs, not what they tell us it is. Ooh, people saw a plasma. People saw a UFO. What did they see and why? Why was that going on there? What's that area got to do with, and what might it really be? And are we going to see a bunch of whales dead now in that area in the next year? I mean, I don't know, but this is the way to look at your world. And don't buy any of what's coming over your screen. It's all propaganda meant to scare you and get you ready tomorrow to face ISIS. Ready tomorrow. And then they'll tell you it blew up a big stadium full of people. Yeah, well, we'll see. If it brings down a stadium like the way those buildings came down, and that masses of people died, that's one thing. But when they stage these things like in France, this Nice truck and San Bernardino, who knows if anybody dies, the Sandy hoax shooting. Nobody died in that, and yet our media keeps referring to it. The greatest killing of children, and right? They never stop getting their mileage out of using it as a reference to a terrorism that was a hoax, just like this Newburgh sting, where these poor kids were offered a bunch of money to do what they thought would be harmless, knew it would be illegal, but thought it would be harmless and they could get away with it and get the money. And they were set up to fail by our government just so we could then ride on the anti-gun, anti-Muslim terrorist coming to get us boogeyman, hide under the bed thing. So that's what's coming in 2016, I think. Hide under the bed, take your vaccines. The viruses are breaking out. Watch out. Go to your doctor. Flu shots. Make sure you get all your shots. Make sure you watch your news and do what you're told. ISIS is lurking around every corner. And to sell that, of course, they're going to have some events. I say, don't be, once you first hear of the event, at least think, maybe it's BS. Let me check that out first before I just freak out and think they killed 100 children. Let me just watch the alt media poke holes, because they don't mind that we find out. Well, it's obviously getting done what they want us to know, right? It's getting us done what they want us to know. So real quick, let me finish by running through all these tabs. I won't read any of the articles or comment because I want to keep it shorter, but this is just in the last 3 days. That's why I decided to record the show today. I have a busy weekend planned and I might not get as much chance. But this is just the tabs that I thrown up on my computer from my one source, Yahoo News. This is just what Yahoo wants me to know over the last 3 days. And I'm pretty sure this is in the order. I haven't reordered them, which I often do according to topic, putting all the Korea stories together. This is just by date, or at least the date that I threw it up there. This one's title, Obama, North Korea nuclear test demands serious consequences. Of course, we know that. They're blowing off nuclear weapons over there. This is the lone gunman, psychotic despot getting ready to drive the world into, and then September 8th, this must have been the next article. China urges calm after North Korea shocks the world with nuclear tests. So get it, you guys? You're supposed to be shocked and afraid. Shocks the world, and be prepared for serious consequences, which I guess when you're shooting off nuclear weapons, serious consequences is, doesn't sound good, right? Not a future where we're all going to work out our differences. Next article, this is also from September 8th. We are watching Daesh no matter where they are. The U.S.-led coalition has a new tactic for ISIS. I wish I could go into it, but it's too funny. I guess it's taken our guys a year to catch up with this homegrown band of terrorists over there cutting people's heads off and just basically apparently spending all their time and effort out in the world terrorizing innocent people, because you don't see, I don't know, where's their medical facilities? Where's their farms? Where's their factories? Where's their political infrastructure that they built over this last year? Because they're the Islamic State, right? They're going to take over Islam, right? And they're not stupid. They didn't just show up to kill a bunch of innocent people. That wasn't what they told us. They speak for Islam. So anyway, but now we've got a new tactic. Thank goodness, huh? What'd I tell you guys? We're going to take them out because it's impossible to carry on that ruse forever because no one's behind them. It's not a movement. It's not like in Nazi Germany when they had half the Christian population voting, kill them, kill them, kill them for God. Kill them for God. Like they do today. Okay. Next article. Oh yeah, I think this is just too funny now. The little Filipino guy, he's over there killing people. I love it. I like this guy. Not that I'm for killing. It's not very Christian, but darn it, it almost shows me. You hand me a country, this imperialistic country that's had nothing but puppets raping and keeping us poor through the IMF. And now if he is something different in here, maybe he grew up seeing what was going on and he's like, you know what? I'm going to get rid of that element with the force I now have, even if they kill me. So I don't know if that's what it's going on or he's just a paid distraction like North Korea. But I find it funny that, he called Obama a son of a bitch, told him, no, come over here with your high-minded self-righteousness, you CIA killer, you world political assassinating, you people murder more people every minute than I might murder if I killed half the population. So now we got Obama snubs Duterte at the end of Laos summit after Filipino president blames U.S. for killing his ancestors. See? So anyway, whether it's just rhetoric to pump everybody up or whether they've allowed this guy to rise up in the Philippines because that gives more parity. The Philippines can then side with China and Russia, and right? They can use those bodies in the fight. I don't know, but that's the way I'm watching the news. That's the way I watch for the events of 2016. Trump says U.S. generals reduced to rubble. He'd replace some. So I haven't seen I usually don't watch any of the American politic rhetoric because it's meaningless. Once we see who gets in office, we'll see what they have planned. But the argument over which politician, might do what is silly. But I thought this was interesting just in that, let's replace some generals because, they're doing, I guess it ain't working so far. As if Trump can just do that, right? Because if Trump gets elected, as I've said before, it's not like China. China goes to war. China goes to the South China Sea. China hacks our computers. China wants to start a new monetary system, but Obama or Trump, does stuff in America. If Trump says that we have a new tactic, that's all there is to it. Trump's in charge. Obama warns China over South China Sea ruling, of course, because it's, again, just the escalation. I'm just showing you, here's what's come over the last 3 days. These are the articles that Yahoo wants me to know, right? North Korea, China, problem, problem, problem. Everybody's getting ready for it. North Koreans are defecting from the country in droves. Of course, because, that's why the leader's doing all this, because he's showing them how strong they are. And the people that are, leaving, of course, are thinking, you're going to get us all killed. Anyway, I think that's all sensationalism. It's got nothing to do with reality. If anyone's leaving, it is because they're smart enough to see that the sensationalism's leading to our death. If anybody, they're going to kill this nut. Russian jet came within 10 feet of U.S. spy plane, says U.S. officials. So, of course they did. Why wouldn't they? Provocation. Because Russia and America have to keep, provoking each other. Why Iran is playing with fire in the Persian Gulf against U.S. Navy ships. So, I'm going to speed it up here. You all know what I'm pointing out. This is just what's come to me in the last 3 days. IS claims deadly attack on Turkish soldiers in Syria, of course, because, as I said before, since that's to me is like friendly fire. Turkey, ISIS is backed by NATO, Turkey's backed by NATO. They're all getting their guns and orders. Ultimately, they're all fighting for the same cause, and so they're killing each other right now. That's how bad it is. Obama and Putin's icy death stare gets a presidential Photoshop battle, right? The icy death stare of Obama and Putin. So that doesn't bode well for a world where everybody's going to learn to talk things out. Thailand supports China's efforts to maintain maritime peace. So again, dividing it up. So does that mean Thailand, Philippines, they'll go with China, and Korea, South Korea for sure, will go with, America and NATO, and Singapore will go with is saying maybe they'll go with Thailand. Yeah, so anyway, this is all, I believe, what you can expect for 2016 is just all the planting of these seeds. They're not ready to drop bombs on these people yet. Everybody's just showing their conditioning, and then we'll have to have drills over there. We'll have to send weapons over there to prepare, right? That's what's been going on. I say that's to continue going on. They're killing people in the Ukraine to keep that hot spot hot. They're killing people in Afghanistan because they want an indigenous culture wiped out. North Korea is just a joke. They're killing people in Venezuela because these, again, are the sort of people that need to come around to stop imagining they're ever going to have a socialistic country. This is the beginning of the culling. And so they're all going to start dying, is what I'm saying. I hope I'm wrong, but this is my take on, if we're in the end times, don't give me all this Christian crap about the Antichrist and Obama and World War III, and nobody says anything. These Christians don't seem to know anything. The Antichrist, if there's such a thing, is culling the people of Christianity for the last 100 years. That's what's going on. Show me that in your daily news. They're setting people up for death. And Revelation says, by the virtue of the fire, the smoke, and the pestilence, were a third of the people killed. So, if there's any weight to that, Nostradamus doesn't see it very pretty either. The Hopi Indians don't see it very pretty either. Islam says 99 out of every 100 that fight in this great war that's to come over the oil, essentially, if you understand the interpretation of their Quranic scriptures. So whatever's coming isn't pretty. How do you set up for that? We're setting up for it now, and being able to see, the wag the dog nature of it. Like I say, you're not going to change anything, but it brings some comfort to ourselves, at least to me, and our neighbors. When this stuff is coming over our screens 24 hours a day, to be able to say, that's okay, friend, calm down. I know that they're saying this and they're saying that. They're saying that it's all bad and it's all doomsday, but that's okay. Relax. It's not doomsday here. in this neighborhood, in this house. There's food, there's water. What do you need? I'm your friend. I don't hate anybody. You know, if we'd all just stay on that channel, and the only way to do that is to know that there is no place else to run in this days. What does it say? Their gold and silver shall not save them. You can't even get to Mars at this point to get away. You're going to go through what we're all going to go through together. And I don't think we're going to go through it in 2016 yet, but we can watch it together if you're on this channel. So thanks for being here. I'll talk to you next week.